Welcome back to the Dallas Regional Championships. My name is Gabby Snyder. I'm still here with Adam Dorricott, and we have a very exciting round 3 match to bring you today. Tommy Cooleen versus Logan Castro. So both very familiar names, I think, in the community.
Yeah, Logan, of course, a local Texan player, and Tommy really on a good run at the moment. That top cut at the London Internationals, and the other night at his mid-season showdown around here, he took 2nd place, so he's really running hot. I think he's stuck with the same team, but I was having a little chat while they were setting up, and these players actually test together and build teams together. Unfortunately for both the players, they have told each other they've not used the team they built together and have entirely mixed it up. Looking down at the sheet, I think Logan's decided to mix more up than Tommy, but I definitely know Tommy's got some tricks in there that are going to put Logan under a little bit of pressure, so I think this is going to be a match to really get this going. You know, we've had a couple of fairly one-sided affairs so far, and I think this match is really going to get us alive and really show us what VGC 17 is all about.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they've been sort of team building and practicing together, because then you really get to see the mind games come out, both on like a personal level and in terms of the metagame. So we might see these players make some weird plays that might actually be more geared towards outplaying each other rather than making the right call for the metagame.
Well, yeah, if you know how your opponent plays, if you know somebody likes to take a lot of risks, you can try and punish them taking those risks by just maneuvering around that. But if you know they're defensive, obviously you can just guess, know where the protects are going to be going, and really capitalize on those. So the knowledge of each other's playstyle, I think, is going to be really important, especially this year, while I believe playstyle really helps. If you have a defined playstyle, you build a team to that playstyle, you're in a really good position to go far at these kind of events.
Definitely. So speaking about playstyle, let's see what we can read from these teams. I do have the sheets right here. So Logan Castro is running Miss Magius, Garchomp, Gastrodon, Arcanine, Tapu Koko, and Kartana versus Tommy Cooleen's team of Araquanid, Gigalith, Salamence, Porygon 2, Kartana, and Tapu Koko. So that's pretty exciting, I think.
I think we've got to start with Logan's, the Miss Magius that we've not seen so much at all this year. Maybe a few years ago. It maybe had 1 or 2 outings. But it's definitely got some interesting options. I'll be interested to see how he runs it and what he feels it brings to this metagame. I do like that both players, they seem to have a very offensive options. Both players bringing that Kartana, which screams offense, and Tapu Koko on both sides as well. So obviously that team building they've put in together gives them something that they keep in their cores. They figure out together that they like these 2 Pokemon in their teams, so moving forward they're going to keep building around them, but definitely different outside of those 2. I'm really interested in seeing Araquanid come up against that Gastrodon. We've seen the trouble that Araquanid can cause as we go through this game. It really did well at San Jose. Didn't pick up anything in London, but really pushed on in San Jose. But Gastrodon, a really good answer. It loves to throw out those big water-type moves. And, of course, Storm Drain, just going to make those completely null and void.
Definitely. So here we are in team preview. Logan Castro versus Tommy Cooleen. Once again, for any of you who are just tuning in, we have on Logan's side of the field Miss Magius, Garchomp, Gastrodon, Arcanine, Tapu Koko, and Kartana versus Tommy Cooleen's team of Araquanid, Gigalith, Salamence, Porygon 2, Kartana, and Tapu Koko. And you know, while I'm looking over these team sheets, one of the things that really jumps out at me from Tommy's side of the field is the fact that it looks like he has a Trick Room sort of mode on his team with the combination of that Gigalith and that Araquanid.
Well, it's the Gigalith, the Araquanid, and of course the Porygon 2, which is emerging as one of those premium setters of Trick Room. Carrying that Eviolite, it's almost impossible to knock it out with just 1 Pokemon. You need 2 Pokemon to do it, and with a partner that's putting some pressure down as well, it makes it a really fantastic setter of Trick Room. Saying that though, Logan definitely has some interesting options here, and what I'm excited to see on Logan's side of the field is where he decides to put those Z moves. So that's going to be a tough decision for him.
Yes, it's definitely going to be a tough decision. Do you think that Miss Magius is going to come out and play at all?
I don't know how it fares against Tommy's team. I think Miss Magius here, having a brief chat with Logan earlier, I think it's definitely something to look at for Tapu Lele. Obviously, if it was there to shut down Trick Room, then Porygon 2 isn't going to be affected by a big ghost type move being normal type, so I don't know if it's as useful, but maybe he'll just bring it out. Maybe there's other uses of it that we've not seen yet.
And we see Salamence and Porygon 2 take the field on Tommy's side of the field. For Logan, he's going to send out Tapu Koko and Garchomp, so definitely different styles of leads here from these trainers.
Well, it looks like Tommy, if he wants it, is going to be fairly free to set up a Trick Room. I mean, there is a lot of damage potential. Not the same Discharge and Earthquake combination available with Tapu Koko, of course, not levitating off the ground, so going to be a little bit harder, but there is definitely the pressure of huge damage on Logan's side of the field. We do know Garchomp a little bit quicker than Salamence, so could maybe use a Dragon-type move to knock that out, although Dragon-type moves not as popular this year. The only Tapu Pokemon, the only Fairy type that Tommy has is the Tapu Koko, so if he needs that, he's going to have to bring it in. There's definitely a lot of pressure from Logan's side of the field, but Tommy has the defensive options here to really take that and move on and set something up for himself, I think.
Yeah, and I think going into game one, having those defensive options puts you at a little bit of an advantage. But interestingly enough, we see Logan making a very defensive play right off the bat, sending in his Arcanine in place of that Garchomp, removing the Intimidate on the Garchomp that Salamence set up, and adding his own Intimidate, and Tapu Koko using Skydrop to stop Porygon 2 from moving this turn, possibly stopping the Trick Room. We see a Dragon Pulse from that Salamence connect with the Arcanine, and while it deals a nice chunk of damage there, that Arcanine will heal right back up thanks to its Citrus Berry.
That switch, very, very smart by Logan. Obviously a little bit scared of what Salamence could do. We have seen Salamence go back to its old ways, and the items that are very popular on it are those choice items. So maybe he was worried about a choice scarf and it outspeeding and knocking out his Garchomp. That's probably the reason for that switch, but I love the Tapu Koko skydropping, just getting rid of the threat of that Porygon for a turn.
Yeah, returning Porygon 2 to Earth, we see that Tapu Koko finish off its skydrop. We see a second Dragon Pulse into the Arcanine for the knockout, and Porygon 2 will finally be able to move, and it uses this opportunity to get that Trick Room up.
It looks uncommon to set up a Trick Room next to a Salamence, but with Tapu Koko on the field, which is exceptionally fast, even faster than the Salamence, this is going to be a really good time for it. If Salamence has an answer to Tapu Koko and it's pretty wide move pool, then it may just be able to capitalize off that. And Logan in a very tricky situation now, bringing out another fast Pokemon with Trick Room not stopped, so probably something Logan needed to focus on a little bit. Skydrop only buying him a turn, not having anything to do the next turn, puts Tommy not only in the Pokemon advantage, but just a complete board control advantage.
Yeah, it looks like when Logan was thinking about team preview, he was not accounting for the fact that Trick Room could be an option that Tommy brings, and I think Tommy has really capitalized on that. We see the Ice Beam into the Tapu Koko, a third Dragon Pulse into the Kartana this time. It gets the knockout, but actually wait, that's a Focus Sash, so it is not knocked out, but a very interesting choice from Tommy. I'm not quite sure why he picked to continue to Dragon Pulse there. We see a Sacred Sword into the Porygon 2, followed up with a Nature's Madness to lower that Porygon 2's health even further into the yellow.
A couple of things to pick up on that turn, although they didn't exchange any knockouts. Tommy put down a lot of damage on the Kartana, and I think he may have given away a little bit of information about that Salamence. Of course, not changing its move for 3 turns now means it's likely one of those choice items, and with the fact he's set up Trick Room next to it, it could be the choice specs coming back that we haven't seen in a long time. Logan's showing off a little more about his Tapu Koko as well, good information. We've seen Skydrop, we've now seen Nature's Madness, so it looks like the Tapu Koko is taking a little more of a supportive role than the aggressive role it usually does, and I wonder if maybe Logan needs to bring something a little more aggressive, especially with the way Tommy's played this game.
We see Tommy switch out his Porygon 2, sending in his Kartana in its place. Salamence Dragon Pulsing once again into a protecting Kartana, and this time that Tapu Koko will go for a Dazzling Gleam. However, it's not quite strong enough to get that knockout on Salamence.
No, we haven't seen many people pick up Tapu Koko for its Dazzling Gleam pressure. It's unfortunate that it has a slightly lower special attack than its physical attack, so Dazzling Gleam, although boosted by its same type attack bonus, not quite doing enough, getting nowhere near the knockout on Salamence. So Logan just doesn't seem to have enough to answer him, and I think Tommy played very carefully in the early turns, and now it's just paying dividends for him as we move into the back end of this game. Although we can see Trick Room about to end, Logan's really got to weather the storm for another 2 turns before he can then start to push on, and with Kartana hanging on with its Focus Sash, it's going to be tough.
Kartana tries to hold on with a second Protect. Unfortunately, it fails. Dragon Pulse from that Salamence for the knockout into Kartana. So provided Tommy's Kartana here decides to use some sort of Steel-type move, we actually see the Leaf Blade instead, but that's still enough damage to knock out that Tapu Koko, possibly thanks to a critical hit. And now it is just that Garchomp versus the Salamence and the now Beast-boosted Kartana on Tommy's side of the field.
A very good position for Tommy to round out this game, of course. I believe it's 3 versus 1. or 4 versus 1, he switched, did he not?
Yes, he did.
So he's in a fantastic position. And I think Logan, the pressure now on him, maybe you get a little more information from this turn. I think he may or may not have figured out what's on that Salamence by now. Definitely knowing interesting moves from Tommy's side of the field is going to help him as he just forfeits this game, knowing he goes into game 2. Got to be a little more scared of that trick room for sure.
Oh, definitely. Tommy's whole strategy this game hinged on getting that trick room and getting it up immediately. I mean, granted, the sky drop did buy Logan 1 turn, but 1 turn was not enough.
Well, I think when you sky drop, it's usually done with some speed switching, so it probably didn't work out for Logan. You want to pick it up for the first turn, and then you need something on the second turn to be able to deal with it. So yes, he switched in the Arcanine to take the Dragon Pulse, but that wasn't going to be able to put enough pressure on the Porygon. It was nice to give him a turn to switch without Trick Room going up, but then he needed something to follow it up, and I think that's what he was lacking a little bit when he was trying to shut down that Trick Room. So whatever he does to shut it down, it's got to be a little bit more this game.
Yeah, another possibility, maybe we'll see that Gastrodon come out onto the field. Gastrodon is a Pokemon that's notorious for sort of stalling out games, you know, letting turns pass. So whether or not that Gastrodon makes an appearance this game may sort of dictate what's going to happen to Logan this round. He really needs to think through his strategy closely, as, you know, losing this early on could possibly tilt his momentum a little bit moving forward.
No, I think he's going to be struggling because he doesn't have any Pokemon that can capitalize off Trick Room. The way we see a lot of players build at the moment is what they actually do is they bring a Pokemon that thrives in the Trick Room. Logan doesn't have that. They're all very offensive. Admittedly, Gastrodon keeps a Raquanid away, which is something that's nice, but apart from that, I feel it just doesn't bring enough to give him an answer to Trick Room. So Logan's going to have to be a little more careful, and I'm going to wonder what his lead does to answer Tommy's, which is going to be identical.
Yeah, Tommy again leading with that Salamence and Porygon 2 combo against the Miss Magius and the Tapu Koko this time. Miss Magius is a ghost-type Pokemon, which are not notorious for stopping Trick Room, so maybe we'll see it have something else that'll allow it to swing things in Logan's favor.
No, Miss Magius has a very, very sneaky move pool, though. It does have access to Taunt, and that could be really essential if Logan's got that, because we know Porygon 2 is forced to hold the Eviolite, a decision that is made for you when teams are built. So if it has that, it can get taunted very, very easily, and that would be one way to shut it down. Of course, he still needs an answer to the Salamence, and I think Tapu Koko is a pretty decent answer. It will be probably a 2-hit knockout with those Dazzling Gleams, as we saw in the previous game. So I think Logan switched up his leads really well here, and I definitely think he has more of an answer, as we just see him start with the Tapu Koko Dazzling Gleam.
Yes, we see that Dazzling Gleam connect with both the Porygon 2 and the Salamence. We do see a taunt from that Miss Magius target the Porygon 2, and Porygon falls for it. Salamence responding with a immensely powerful Draco Meteor. It's going to connect with that Miss Magius, but it is exactly enough for that knockout. Salamence taking the special attack drop in return, and Porygon 2 cannot use Trick Room anymore thanks to the taunt.
Very interesting. Both players got a little bit of what they want. Of course, Tommy did get rid of that Miss Magius. It wasn't holding a Focus Sash. It could be somewhere else on the team. Definitely with this team, it's likely to be on the Kartana. That's where it usually ends up. So it's curious what Miss Magius was holding. And if we go to Game 3, that's something Tommy might need to figure out. But of course, stopping the Trick Room was really, really important for Logan, and he did it perfectly this turn. Now Salamence is in a really dicey position. Logan's got the chance to pretty much predict the switch and try and capitalize off it.
We do see Tommy switch out his Porygon 2, and in its place that Kartana once again takes the field. Tapu Koko going for a Nature's Madness onto the Kartana. It'll bring its health exactly down to 50%. A Sacred Sword from that Kartana following up to the Kartana on Tommy's side of the field, getting a knockout. So Salamence still possibly could Draco Meteor here if it is carrying one of those choice items. We do see it go for a second Draco Meteor, but unfortunately it misses the Kartana, and Tommy is now forced to send out either that Porygon 2 or his last Pokemon, which is the Araquanid, as it turns out.
No, that's a very, very good turn for Logan. Gets that last Pokemon out, and it looked like Salamence was going to have to lead the field. Of course, being locked into Draco Meteor with the -2 special attack stat, that could have been the thing leaving. But a very good prediction from Logan, knowing the Porygon also can't do much while it's taunted, switching that out for the Kartana, and Nature's Madness and Sacred Sword is going to be doing a lot of damage. Even if that catches the Porygon, that's going to be taking a knockout. So very, very smart play from Logan, showing the combination that his team can do. We saw it last year with Super Fang. very, very nice. We are going to see, though, aggression in a different way from Logan.
We see Thunderbolt into the Porygon 2, Leaf Blade into the protecting Araquanid. So great defensive switch there by Tommy. The Porygon 2 has taken the field once again. We might see Tommy attempt to get that Trick Room up again now that Logan can no longer taunt, but he does still have the option to Sky Drop on his Tapu Koko if he wants to buy more turns for his Kartana to deal damage on the field.
There's definitely a lot of options available to Logan now, and I think the adaptation he made to his team and just the order in Pokemon he selected is really paying off. Tommy forced to make a lot of switches, and it looks like Logan's been able to capitalize them pretty well every single turn.
We see Salomon switch in for the Kartana on Tommy's side of the field, intimidating the Kartana on Logan's side of the field, as well as the Tapu Koko. We see Tapu Koko Thunderbolt into the Porygon 2. Kartana now Sacred Sword into the Porygon 2. It is enough for the knockout. So Tommy is now without his Trick Room setter, and Kartana gets another attack Beast Boost. So the Intimidate did cancel out the first Beast Boost, but now Kartana is again sitting with that nice boost. We know that Araquanid is going to be the slowest thing on the field, and I really don't think it appreciates seeing a Tapu Koko and a Kartana on the other side.
Not at all. This game has been a complete turnaround from game 1 from Logan. He knew that the problem was the Porygon. He led to deal with the Porygon, and he's just been able to keep up that momentum as we go through the game. So I love the adaptation. He took information particularly about the Salamence from game 1, so that very good adaptation from Logan. Tommy just caught a little bit off guard. He switched his style, became very defensive because he didn't get the Trick Room up, trying to switch around, get his board position to what he wanted. But Logan punishing it every single turn with combinations of Nature's Madness and Sacred Sword. Thunderbolt and Sacred Sword, just consistent damage into one side of the field, really working for Logan there. So if he can do that again in game 2, I think he's going to be getting off to a great start, or game 3. And then I do know that Tommy's just going to have to be a little more cautious with those switches.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we did see the Araquanid, but we actually saw Tommy forfeit before it could do anything other than protect. So whether or not that Araquanid is going to be sort of a key part of his strategy moving into this game is to be seen. He definitely has to rethink his strategy. Maybe he'll try and go for a similar lead again if he thinks that Logan's going to think that he wouldn't possibly lead the same thing 3 times in a row, but you never know. And this is where those mind games sort of come into play, because these trainers have faced each other before. They are very familiar with each other's play styles, and it all comes down to just what kind of reads they're going to make starting with this team preview.
I think it's a stick or twist situation for both players. Of course, Logan very likely wants to bring that Mismagius again. We did see what it did to Tommy's lead, but Tommy, knowing that, could take Porygon in the back, a number of players bring it in for a later Trick Room, and just bring an answer to Mismagius. We saw it doesn't stick around long if it does get attacked, so it's going to be careful. We'll have to see if Mismagius does things other than taunt. I'm sure it has another use, and if it can do that, then it's going to be able to take knockouts, force the Porygon out again, and if he can shut the Porygon down with the Mismagius or something that he's kept hidden till game 3, I think he's going to be in great shape. Tommy's team really relying on that one Pokemon.
All right, game 3 here, Mismagius and Tapu Koko as a lead on Logan's side of the field, so same as game 2. And Tommy finally switching it up, going for a Porygon 2 and Gigalith lead. So we will see the electric terrain get set up on the field once again, but a first for this weekend's stream, we're going to see that Sandstorm ability come out from the Gigalith.
Yeah, Sandstream, what it got in the new generation, definitely able to help do a little bit of chip damage, deal with those focus sashes in some cases, but Tommy aware of what Mismagius can do this game. We saw in game 2, obviously the taunt just shut it down immediately, so Tommy can play around that a little bit, maybe switch, maybe use something a little bit more offensive, and again, the pressure just sort of sits with Logan to capitalize on that. So I'm going to be interested to see, it's all about the predictions, and whichever player makes the best predictions with their switching and the targeting of their attacks, I think is going to be in a really good place.
Sky Drop from that Tapu Koko into the Porygon 2, and Will-O-Wisp from that Mismagius going to connect with the Gigalith and significantly lower its attacking possibility for this turn. We see a Rock Slide, but unfortunately it misses the Mismagius and the Tapu Koko because the Tapu Koko flew up in the air with that Porygon.
Yeah, Tapu Koko getting out of harm's way, but it's not even going to be taking that much damage. Gigalith burned. This generation, not used as much for the residual damage, but a Pokemon like Gigalith isn't really going to appreciate having its attack stat cut. So Tommy maybe not able to get as much out of the Gigalith, and I think just a very smart turn there from Logan. Now he has the time to let Porygon hit the ground, perhaps taunt it, because he's not as afraid of the Gigalith. And I just think very smart. It was a safe play, but very, very smart from Logan. I think Tommy slightly on the back foot. He's going to have to see what he can do in this round.
Skydrop returning Porygon 2 to the ground, getting freed from that. We see the Miss Magios follow up immediately with a taunt, so preventing that Porygon 2 from setting up Trick Room. But Porygon 2 this time going for an Ice Beam into the Tapu Koko. It hardly deals any damage. Rock Slide, Miss Magios dodges it once again. It will connect with that Tapu Koko, but thanks to the burn, it just doesn't deal enough damage.
No, those avoids have really helped Logan out. We know Miss Magius doesn't stay on the field for too long, but being able to avoid Rock Slide means it stayed there even longer, of course. Tommy not trying to Trick Room, just getting some good damage down with the Ice Beam. Not as much as he would have liked, I'm sure, but really forcing the Porygon to not be able to do everything it wants to do. So I think Logan's been playing not as aggressive, but still in a pretty good position. So I like the way he's played. A little bit of luck helping him, but sometimes that's just what you need to get through these kind of games.
Definitely. You know, it's a beautiful lead. Logan has been able to figure out a way to shut down Porygon 2 and really any Trick Room setter in a way that's just long enough for him to either figure out a way to sort of maneuver around the Trick Room, which I believe is what we saw him try to do in Game 1 to a certain level of success. Or alternatively, just shut down whatever Porygon 2's partner is, like that Gigalith. So even if Porygon 2 were to get the Trick Room up at this point, that Gigalith will just be unable to deal damage, and Rock Slide accuracy also not helping out much here either. We see the Kartana switch in for the Miss Magius on Logan's side of the field. We see the Kartana switch in on Tommy's side of the field as well, replacing that Porygon 2. Nature's Madness into that Kartana. It's going to cut its health exactly in half. And we see a Z move from Tommy, and we see the dance. I believe that is the Rockium Z on that Gigalith.
It is. It's going to be a big continental crush going down onto Logan's side of the field. Of course, not going to be doing as much. The burn is going to help Logan maybe sustain through this, and that Kartana switch looks like it's going to be really good. Another example of smart switching and play, meaning that the damage from a Z move just not doing enough, not being the kind of essential big turn that it needs to be. I love Logan's switch out there to get the Miss Magius out, predicting the switch on Tommy's side of the field so that maybe they can come back onto the field at exactly the same time, and then he's able to taunt and shut it down again. So Logan thinking a couple turns ahead. As we were saying at the beginning of the game, they've practiced together. They know pretty much each other's playstyle, and they it looks like Logan's got in Tommy's head in this game, managing to predict exactly what he's been doing. So great switch. Obviously that burn just really paying dividends as we move through. So Tommy's big Z move, which he can usually use to swing a game back in his favor, not able to do that. And I feel Tommy's just kind of clamoring to get back in this game with Kartana switching in, getting caught with the Nature's Madness, doesn't have access to its focus sash anymore, so it's just going to be a little bit easier for Logan to knock out, I think.
Salamence taking the field in place of that Gigalith. It's intimidating both the Kartana and the Tapu Koko on Logan's side of the field. Thunderbolt from that Tapu Koko, though, into the Kartana, and unfortunately it is enough to knock it out. So Tommy is down to 2 Pokemon at this point. Leaf Blade from that Kartana into the Salamence, and while it doesn't deal a lot of damage, the momentum just keeps swinging in Logan's favor.
He's building up a real head of steam here. And Tommy, it's very similar to Game 2. He's trying to switch around, get himself a foothold in this game. But personally, I think the Miss Magius is the answer to Tommy's team. It's put so much pressure on the Porygon, which he really wants to set up that Trick Room. It's just been able to keep him going back and forth. It also got the burn on Gigalith, so maybe Miss Magius is what this format has been needing. Of course, Porygon now on the field not staring down at Miss Magius, may be able to pull something out of the pocket to swing it around, but there's going to need to be a lot of work done, especially with the amount of damage Logan has managed to put down on Tommy's side of the field.
Definitely, and we have seen Logan before in this sort of exact situation use the combination of the Nature's Madness and the Sacred Sword on that Kartana to knock out that Porygon. So the fact that Salamence switched out here does not bode well unless Logan predicted, you know, a different kind of switch. We do see the Thunderbolt into the Gigalith, followed by a Smart Strike into the Gigalith. So while unfortunately Gigalith is left with just enough health to possibly get knocked out by the residual burn damage, Porygon 2 was able to get the Trick Room up finally.
That is maybe what Tommy needs to stage a late comeback here as well.
Gigalith just
clinging
barely
on.
holding on.
No, Gigalith clinging on in there with that tiny amount of health it has remaining. What it needs to do is go on and really get out big rock slides. Maybe he's going to have to look for a flinch this turn, get some damage down with the Porygon. We know that Ice Beam will do decent damage to Kartana because it's low special defense. I'm really excited to see if Tommy can stage a huge comeback here. This might be what he needs for it.
This might be what he needs for it. Stone Edge into the Tapu Koko, but unfortunately it does not get a critical hit, and that Tapu Koko holds on with just a little sliver of health. Ice Beam into that Kartana for the knockout, but Tapu Koko decides to go for a Nature's Madness here, so Porygon 2 will be able to stick around on the field for just one more turn, whereas Gigalith unfortunately is knocked out, so it is down to just that Porygon 2 and the Salamence on Tommy's side.
I love that this game has come down to a really exciting conclusion. Tommy getting what he needed in the Trick Room. I think Logan, a couple turns ago, may have missed a trick when he just decided not to Sky Drop the Porygon. Maybe a combination of a Sky Drop, then bring in the Mismagius and put pressure on it that way was the way to go. Unfortunately, he doesn't go for that play, and he really is able to just keep himself in the game. We do see a different Pokemon come out from Logan in the fourth, though. Something he's kept in the pocket for game 3, perhaps? Something he didn't want to show, and he feels it's going to be really good in this matchup.
Yeah, so we see the Arcanine take the field in place of the fallen Kartana. You know, that Intimidate ability that Arcanine is carrying might not be very helpful here because we have seen a lot of special moves from the Salamence, and we know the Porygon 2 is usually a specially trained Pokemon. But that Arcanine could have access to a move like Snarl, which will lower the damage potential of both these special Pokemon, or that Arcanine might just decide to attack. We'll have to see what Logan chooses. We first see that Tapu Koko switch out for the Mismagius, taking an Ice Beam right on the switch, and we do see that Snarl come out from Arcanine, so it doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it lowers the special attack stat of both the Porygon 2 and the Salamence, who goes for a Dragon Pulse, targeting that Arcanine. We saw that do about half damage in game 1. We see it do about half damage again. However, we do see the Citrus Berry activate, and Arcanine is left with essentially 70% of his health.
Very good move choice by Logan here. And I think bringing Arcanine for Snarl is actually a backup answer to Trick Room. He knew from games 1 and 2 that the kind of things that like to punish him under Trick Room are those special attackers. So although Trick Room has gone up, which wasn't ideal for him, bringing that Snarl really working for him. Salamence unfortunately moving after the Arcanine in this turn means that it is affected by Snarl when it goes to attack, and I think Logan's Snarl may be able to just put a damper on what he's trying to do. Obviously the special attack on both of these Pokemon is important. It's the stat they use to attack, and it's going to be really hard to keep up ahead of steam, but Porygon likes to stick around and be annoying.
Definitely. Porygon 2 with that recover, bringing its health almost back up to full. We see Arcanine with another Snarl targeting both Pokemon, so we see these special attack stats on Tommy's side of the field drop 2 stages total now. Another Dragon Pulse from that Salamence into the Arcanine. Because of that Snarl, it is just not enough to get a knockout, and we finally see the Z move from Logan, and we see it is the Ghostium Z item on that Mismagius.
It's going to be the never-ending nightmare coming out of Mismagius. Feels he's in a really good position, obviously targeting down the Salamence, just wants to get rid of it. It's going to be taking so much damage, and that is the item that we were looking for. Obviously not the Focus Sash it likes to hold, but just showing to Tommy what Mismagius can do, and I think it's done enough to warrant a little bit of time to show off. Of course, Porygon can buy a lot of time here, but Arcanine and Mismagius are staring it down. There is obviously the option for Mismagius to burn it, which will help with a little bit of residual damage each turn, and I think Logan, even though a few things didn't go his way in game 3 and they definitely didn't go his way in game 1, he's managed to adapt and answer, get in Tommy's head, and put himself in a really good position to go 3-0 heading into round 4 of this tournament. So Tommy needs Porygon to do a lot of work here.
Yeah, and if Tommy did decide to bring Toxic on his Porygon, this could be a great opportunity for him to start setting it up. We see that Arcanine protect this turn. Toxic into the protecting Arcanine, unfortunately, giving Mismagius the opportunity to taunt, which will then shut down Porygon 2's attempt at both healing and setting up Toxic on Logan's side of the field. So all Logan really has to do at this point is manage to knock out that Porygon 2 prior to that taunt running out, and given the Pokemon he has out on the field right now, and given that residual damage from the Will-O-Wisp that just connected with that Porygon 2, I think we'll most likely see that happen.
No, and we do see the only attack as well on that Porygon 2 is the Ice Beam. With 2 Snarls in, not going to be doing much damage at all to Arcanine. Of course, Tommy just seeing what he can get, maybe some kind of freeze, maybe just do enough residual damage to really stall out this game and keep it going. I think they're just kind of playing for fun, you know. But there is the option this year, something we haven't seen as much in previous years with the new timer. You can take games all the way to time and try and win them out. But unfortunately, with 3 Pokemon on Logan's side of the field, just not enough available to him to come back. I've seen a Porygon to 2v1, but I haven't seen it 3v1 in the past, so I think that would have been a bit of a stretch. And Tommy, even though he got that very comprehensive Game 1 win, Logan's adaptations just being spot on. In Game 2, it was the predicts on the switches, and in Game 3, I think his all-around game just made him earn that win.
Definitely. You know, both these teams are very well constructed, but at the end of the day, it all came down to how they were played. And Logan just, again, he got that information in Game 1. He was able to adapt. He was able to make reads based off of what he would expected Tommy to do, both based on what he saw in Game 1 and probably a little bit of personal experience in there. And it just turned out to be an amazingly close match.
Yeah,
and
that was a fantastic match. A lot of
very
back and
well
forth.
played.
We are going to kick to a very short break. We're going to prepare ourselves a player interview with our winner, actually. We're going to have a little chat with him about how it feels to take on Tommy, who running hot. That was a really big win for Logan.
Yeah, definitely. Please stay tuned, everybody.
Welcome back to Dallas Regionals. I am joined by your round 3 winner, Logan Castro, who brought something a little bit new to the table to earn a really hard-fought win over Tommy Cooleen. We're going to start with that. Tell me a little bit about Miss Magius.
Okay, so Miss Magius, I originally had the team, I like Marcus Statter's national team, the one with Gengar and Tapu Koko and stuff, and it was an Assault Vest Tapu Koko, so I liked that. But what I didn't like is that I hit my ground moves a lot. I would lose to the Tapu Koko Garchomp lead. So I like the Levitate. I like the fact that I can Will-O-Wisp Garchomp before it can Earthquake me. And I like the fact that since Hard Trick Room is popular right now, like Porygon 2 and Hariyama, I can taunt Porygon and not get faked out. So that's always really nice.
Well, there's a lot of options there. I mean,
Definitely.
We did see the Gengar. It obviously lost Levitate this generation,
Yeah.
so you just went, oh, this Ghost type has Levitate. I'll just take that as well. It did, of course, have Ghost DMZ, so you mentioned Hariyama. No knockoff, which I'm sure you appreciate.
Yes, I did not get OHKO'd by knockoff, no.
That must be really, really nice. So outside of Miss Magius, was it just a kind of copy of Marcus's team, or do you just kind of build the rest yourself with inspiration from that?
So I basically had Marcus's team, and then I changed Gengar to Miss Magius, and I changed Celesteela to Kartana, and then I changed Tapu Koko's moveset a little bit, few tweaks here and there to EV spreads, but that's about it. Yeah, so Marcus was my inspiration. If you're watching this, hi Marcus, I love you.
I'm sure he appreciates you giving him like the idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure he just loves seeing you do well with it.
Oh,
I'm sure he's really pleased about that. Did you feel going into that round? Obviously, we knew you were playing Tommy, doing really well at London, did really well at the mid-season showdown the other night.
Yeah.
Did you feel any pressure going against him, or did the fact you've practiced with him and played with him, did that just make you feel better about the whole thing?
I think I was actually really comfortable in the match. Tommy and I have practiced a lot, and Tommy's running the same team as one of my friends, except he had Gigalith over Muck. And Muck actually can give my team a little bit of problems. I have to kind of play around its Figgy Berry. But Gigalith, it's it's easy to burn, it's easy to smash with Kartana and Nature's Madness. So I think the Gigalith actually cleared up my matchup pretty well.
So his change benefited you,
Definitely,
basically.
yes.
Definitely. That's definitely interesting. Do you feel, I mean, Gabby and I were talking about it a little bit in the stream. Do you feel that, obviously after taking that game 1 loss, which wasn't too pretty for you,
no,
to be
not
honest
at all.
did you feel you got in his head in game 2 or 3? Was that, because game 2 we felt you just made fantastic predictions.
Yeah.
Did you feel just confident going into game 3, or were you still a little bit nervous about it?
Well, his strategy worked in game 1, and I figured he's going to do the same lead for game 2 since it worked fantastic for him. So I actually didn't expect him to lead that. Actually, when I picked my lead, I said, man, I sure hope he doesn't lead Porygon Salamence, and he led it. And I was like, oh, well. So next game, I adjusted, and the third game, I decided Arcanine was going to be a good call to bring, and it helped out a lot. It undersped his Salamence and got the Snarls I needed for my Mence and my Miss Magus to survive hits.
That was really good. I love that he set the trick room up for you, and you got to capitalize on it. So I'm sure you appreciate that.
I did. Oh.
We saw Salamence. Oh, we've got an Arcanine in the back. We'll be golden here. So, do you feel your team is like the team to really beat right now? Have you just adapted to the format better, do you think?
I think that this Magus was a really good regionals call. My friend was using the team. I built it with Ken and Nirad, and he's a really old VGC player. And they both on Showdown have gotten to like 1700, 1800 with the ladder on it. And that's how I knew that the team was going to do really well at regionals. It's got really really consistent performances.
Yeah, is there anything you're a little bit scared of playing? Something you know is a tougher matchup? Or I mean, you can say it quietly. We don't want anyone listening.
Okay, yeah. The only thing I'm really scared of. I don't want to sound cocky. I actually can't think of anything. This team has answers to Weather Team. It has answers to Trick Room teams, Standard teams. It's very consistent.
Well, it sounds like the perfect team. If you're comfortable with it, then that's going to send you a long way. Well, we're going to let you go and take a little break. That was a hard-fought match, so I'm sure you'd appreciate a drink and everything. We're going to be back very, very shortly with our next round. We're just going to kick over to a short break. We're going to keep it as short as possible for you. Thank you for joining me, Logan.
Yeah, of course.
Good luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow in Top Cut.
Definitely.